Okay, so today's topic is going to be on what is general physical preparation. This is an extension of what we started yesterday. General physical preparation is the concept of improving the general overall capacity of our body. This is encompassing concepts of strength, speed, power, conditioning, all these things. These are the general attributes that are applicable across multiple disciplines of sport or physical activities. So the easiest way to summarize it is get strong, get fast, get mobile, and make sure you can breathe well enough to do what you have to do. Now, what this means for you as far as your training is when you're in a phase that is primarily general physical preparation, you're going to be pushing the limits of just what your body can handle as a whole in terms of both workload, intensities, volumes. This is where you basically build the athlete. You build the foundation that everything else is put upon. Your first step, if you've never worked out before, should be to get strong, because getting strong forms the basis for all the other attributes to build upon. But as an overall concept, we want to get strong, we want to get fast, we want to get mobile, and we want to be able to breathe. So let's break all four of those categories down. So getting strong. This is the bulk of general physical preparation for martial artists, is get strong. If you're a track and field athlete, there's a little more emphasis on speed and some other things, especially like foot speed, running speed. But we're going to focus on martial artists because that's what we are. At least that's what most of the people watching this video are. Now, in terms of that is we want to get strong. We're not talking training like power lifters, where you still want to train like athletes. We want to train so that we're strong, but we're not specialized in strength. And that's the big difference between a power lifter or a strongman and your athletes. Is athletes are not specialized in strength, but they use strength to fuel what they do. So to do this, you're going to be focusing mostly on your big compound lifts, your deadlifts, your squats, your overhead presses. Now, the thing to remember here is there is lots of really good options within these for variations of what to do. So don't get too caught up in the details whether you're doing the right variation. So long as you're doing something, it's better than nothing. Now, when we go into depth of detail, this is where, coaches and such, they can really fine-tune your programs and get you into the right positions not necessarily the right positions, the right exercises that are going to provide you the biggest bang for your buck. But typically, if you're brand new to the gym, a back squat, a deadlift, and some form of pressing and some form of pulling for the upper body. I always advise horizontal pulling over vertical pulling, so a type of row over, say, a chin-up. This is to do with back health and shoulder health. Actually, I'll have an article coming out later this week talking exactly about that, so just stay tuned for that one, because that'll get linked out to you guys as well. Now, when we talk about speed, this isn't necessarily explosive force production. This isn't necessarily foot speed. This is what are the speed demands of the sport in which you are looking to train for in the long term, and what do you need? If you're a pretty poor runner that you aren't able to sprint, that's probably a good place to start. Is start with your sprints and build up from there. Now, you can include lots of things in here, change your direction drills, jumping, throwing, stuff like that. But speed, in essence, is training your muscles to contract faster or producing the same amount or near the same amount of force as a slow contraction does over the time of the contraction. And that can be trained basically any way that allows you to move freely and quickly. So this is typically going to be more calisthenics based or very lightweight, moving very, very fast. Now, when we talk about getting mobile, mobility is a form of injury prevention, but mobility demands vary from sport to sport. So depending on what your sport is, you're going to need different things. A wrestler needs more mobility than a baseball player. That's straightforward. We are martial artists. We should have relatively good mobility. Now, not all of us wrestle. Lots of people that are watching these kind of videos from me are focusing more on fencing, using the sword and such. So you need good mobility going in and out of lunge positions, hinging at your hips to go forward, stuff like that. That should be basically hip mobility is where the bulk of your focus and mobility should be, followed up by shoulder mobility. Because we end up taking so much pressure through our hips and through our shoulders, having that extra mobility there, that extra ability for the range of motion in the joint will just simply keep us from being in that position where we've gone too far and now we hurt and we pulled something or we strained something. So mobility is task specific. Now, for those of you just wanting for general health, my general idea for you is, can you bend over, tie your shoes? Can you get in and out of bed? Can you get yourself down into a deep squat? And can you comfortably reach over your head? Those are really the big ones you need to be aware about. And as long as you can maintain those are great. You don't need to do the splits. Doing the splits is awesome if you can do it, but that's not required. If you're wrestling actively, if you're doing a lot of groundwork and such, this is where you really want as much mobility as possible, because wrestling and groundwork especially have very, very awkward positions that happen. If any of you have been involved in them, you'll know that sometimes you just end up in a position you're like, I don't know how I got here, and it doesn't feel very good. Imagine if you don't have the mobility, what those positions can feel like. They can be very painful. So mobility helps prevent injuries from being in bad positions. Now, the last one, making sure you can breathe. Your cardiovascular fitness is incredibly important. Martial artists, we aren't training for 15-minute bouts. If you're ever in a fight that takes you 15 minutes to finish, something went wrong. Horribly, horribly wrong. We're training for about a 3-minute window, and if you look at the statistics come out of UFC and boxing, typical engagements last about 7 seconds with about a 14-second reprieve before they re-engage. So you're looking at a 7-14 work-rest cycle. So that's a 1 to 2 work-rest. So you're getting twice the rest as you are work. However, that means in your training, you should train so that you can recover in 10 seconds or less, and so you can go for 20 seconds or more. That's the structure that you guys are going to be basing this cardiovascular fitness on. However, now when we talk about the general physical preparation side of that, walk. Brisk walks everywhere. This builds up your aerobic capacity. It helps with muscle recovery, and it improves heart and lung health. And these are wonderful things to have, because if you can't breathe and if your heart doesn't calm down, you're in trouble. One of the big things we want to watch in terms of health markers is how quickly our hearts go from high heart rate down to a lower heart rate and actually recover. That's what you're training for. That's what you're trying to get developed in terms of GPP for cardio, is getting it so that your heart rate recovers very quickly and that you can go for long enough that you feel comfortable. Now, in general health, you don't need to be able to run 5K to have good general health. You can just walk it. Like, really, you don't have to run for general cardiovascular fitness. But you do want to have the ability that you can go up a couple flight of stairs. You're not winded. You're not gassed. You know, it shouldn't feel like it's a tiring process moving around your place. So that's what you work on with that. Now, hopefully this kind of gives you an idea of where to base your general physical prep in. You want to get strong, you want to get fast, you want to get mobile, and you want to work on your conditioning. Those are your 4 base attributes that you work to improve during a general physical preparation phase in whichever capacity that's needed that relates back to your end goals. Because general physical preparation doesn't mean everyone does the same thing. It means you're dealing with the same base concepts and then specializing them towards your end goals. And then the next phase of training, which I'll talk about tomorrow, is a sport-specific preparation. And that is where we take the attributes you've built and put them into sport contexts, as well as work on sport-specific fluid in motion and efficiency in motion, and how we can now start to apply our newly developed attributes in those sports. In the meantime, you guys have a great day. Bye.